Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. But we are joined by returning guest and star of the Washington football team press, Mr. Sam Fortier of the Washington Post. Thank you so much for joining us again, Sam. How was your weekend?
I'm doing well. Thank you all for having me. I assume by that intro, you guys would be having John Keim or Nikki Jabvala on here. I hope listeners aren't too disappointed.
No. Who are they? No, I'm just kidding. And I just wanted to say the Burgundy Zone is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more at listenfrederick.com. Now, Sam, my first question to you. We had the bye week. There was a scheduled practice last week on Wednesday during the bye week, but then Coach nullified that. He said, we're canceling that, never mind. So now is the first time they were back at practice today. Can you kind of update us on who was present? Did we have some friendly faces coming back?
So it turns out that there are a lot of Washington players who were injured right before the bye, working back from injuries, sort of a long injury report, especially since, head trainer Ryan Vermillion and head assistant Doug Kwan were put on administrative leave. So it's been a challenging situation to navigate. But I pulled it up because it's so long. But so practicing in some capacity, we had right guard Brandon Sheriff, corner William Jackson III, right tackle Sam Cosmi, running back Antonio Gibson, wide receiver Dyami Brown, left guard Eric Flowers. All those guys were practicing somewhat. We get to stay for 10, 15 minutes. On the side field, we had Logan Thomas, who's still working on that hamstring injury. They spoke optimistically about him before the bye. Ron didn't really say much during his press conference. And on the stationary bike, we had Curtis Samuel and we had Montez Sweat. So that's kind of the full roundup of what we saw out there in terms of injuries.
Wow, so that's a pretty long list you got there. You mentioned Ron's press conferences. Last week, well, it wasn't really a press conference, but it came out last week. I think he was sitting down with Mike Silver, and he essentially kind of called out Chase Young and said he needed more production out of him. How do you think Chase Young is going to respond to that coming into a tough Tampa Bay team this upcoming week?
Great question.
So Pete Haley of NBC Sports Washington actually asked Ron today, why did you choose to go public with those comments, with those criticisms? And Ron got pretty defensive and said that I've talked to Chase about those things personally, privately. This is nothing I'm saying out of turn. This is nothing I'm saying, that he hasn't heard before. And I'm just saying, this is what it is. I thought everybody knew the situation. I thought everybody knew where we were at. So to Ron, I think to us, to even people in the media, that is as publicly critical as he's been of Chase, of Montez throughout this whole season. But to him, he says that that's the reality inside that building, that has been something he said before. So he actually wants Chase to respond in kind of a measured way, because he was talking about the pressure. If it was on Chase before, if he feels like 1.5 sacks through 8 games isn't going to get him his bread, he's going to be even under more scrutiny now, because without Montez, teams are going to start game planning for him alone, especially on that, on the edges anyway. So because Casey Toohill and James Smith-Williams, while, they might do their thing, I mean, they're not Chase Young. So he's going to be seeing more chippers. He's going to be seeing more doubles. He's going to be seeing more of the things that have caused him problems throughout this year. So Ron said, hey, look, we don't need you to sack a guy every play. We don't need you to have a tackle for loss every play. So we really need you to kind of just work on your game, refine your pass rush, and show progress in the second half of the season. I actually think that's not a bad mantra for this team as a whole. They don't have to win every game. They just got to show progress. They do have to win some games. I mean, that's obvious. But they got to show progress. They got to show development. And so to me, kind of how Chase Young goes and kind of his setup for the second half of the season is sort of a good way to think about this team as a whole.
Yeah, and Sam, a couple weeks ago, Ron Rivera was asked about Kyle Allen possibly coming over and reseating Taylor Heinicke as a starting quarterback, and Ron immediately took that back, was like, no, that's not even in my thought process. But as of last week, that language kind of like grayed out a little bit. He wasn't as adamant as he was before. So in your opinion, is that possibility of Kyle Allen coming in and starting for this football team creeping up and growing each by week?
I don't think so. I think that Ron, I mean, right after the game, he was pretty great. He said, we'll have to evaluate all positions, the quarterback. But that Monday press conference, he backed Taylor pretty significantly. And to me, that suggests that the leash that Taylor Heineke has is pretty long, especially before you go to Kyle Allen, because not only is Scott Turner, the offensive coordinator, a Heineke guy, not only is Ken Zampese, the quarterback's coach, a Heineke guy. I think they really do mean it when they say he's inexperienced. I mean, we're still talking about a guy that has, 9 career NFL starts. And while he is in his own head, while he does, he doesn't look like the guy that went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady 10 months ago at this point. But they want to see if he can figure that out. And I think the other thing is, and I know process over results is a big buzz phrase right now in sports especially. But I do think that this team has been able to move the ball. Yeah, they've really grayed out, as you said, in kind of that 35-yard line and in setting. But it's not as if they're going 3 and out every play. It's not as if Taylor Heineke is doing what Sam Darnold did in Carolina. I'm sorry he had to catch a stray, but I watched that game last weekend and it was brutal, man. I mean, it's not like the quarterback play is like that.
Right.
So I think they want to say, hey, can Taylor figure it out? Because if you factor in Taylor's mobility, I still think he's got a higher ceiling than Kyle. So I think they're just rolling the dice and saying, hey, can this dude figure it out? If he can't, totally different discussion. But, hey, he's had 3 pretty bad games in a row, but can he rebound? Can he figure that out?
And to what you were basically saying, if people watching don't know, the reference that Sam had brought up when I was talking about inside the 35, they are last in the league right now in red zone conversion rate in going to touchdowns with 45% clip. They're last in the league. But like you said, Sam, they do really well at moving the ball in between the 20s. Sorry, Hall, your turn.
Nah, it's all good. I mean, and hopefully Logan Thomas and a couple of these guys coming back, it'll kind of get those numbers up in the red zone at least. That was my question. So it's like pretty much halfway through the season up to this point, and there's been a lot of lows, a couple of highs here and there. There's been a couple standout players. Obviously, Jonathan Allen with the contract's been a standout. Obviously, Terry McLaurin's always a standout guy. Who's someone that you think that kind of stood out more that you thought going into the season kind of exceeded their play? Sorry.
No, you're good. I exceeded their play. Tough to say, but I would say right now I think 3 guys that played well in their roles. There's a very limited pool of candidates here because you have guys that were either hampered by injury. Like I don't think we saw 100% AG, so I don't know if it's a fair comment on his play. We didn't get to see a ton of Logan Thomas, so we don't know if he's taken that next step. So, but I would say the 3 guys we did see a lot of who I thought played really well. 1, Cam Curl. I think Cam Curl is a really smart football player and is going to be an important part of this team for as long as he's here. But his ability to play well in that Buffalo nickel and then slide back to strong and be really one of the lone positives in that secondary. I think you're in a worse spot with him, especially when when they were going 1 linebacker sets and he was basically playing, Sam linebacker and he was fitting the run. Like, I think what that dude does on a down-to-down is maybe underappreciated. And then the other 2 guys, I would say the play of Wes Schweitzer and Cornelius Lucas on the offensive line when they've had to step in, I think those guys really sort of validated Ron Rivera's statement that he wanted to shore up the offensive line. Obviously, you want to get a quarterback first, and I think no one's doubting that would have been the route if they could have gotten it. But once you miss out on those guys and once you say, okay, Chase Young or whomever that people were asking for in trade negotiations is not on the table, then you start to say, okay, let's build our line. And I think the depth that I've seen there, especially when you lose a guy like All-Pro Brandon Sheriff or that promising rookie Sam Cosmi, those guys being able to step in, I would say those have been 3 of the maybe underrated bright spots in the first half.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Now, I want to phrase this question to you, Sam, in a very delicate way. Antonio Gibson's fumbling right now. He has 4 fumbles on the season. He only has 3 touchdowns, so he has more fumbles than touchdowns at the moment. With that being said, is AG's fumbling, is it an issue or is it becoming an issue?
It's a good question, and I think that it's like so much of football, right? Like so much of football is many variables coming together at once. Like, I think the red zone issues that we're seeing right now is not only a problem with execution and maybe Taylor Heineke overthinking, but I think, play calling is sometimes a part of that as well. So when I answer this question, I want to just say there's a lot of nuance here. There's a lot of context. I would say AG's fumbling problem was a problem last season as well. In certain situations, especially. And so ball security was, I think one of the things the coaching staff wanted to see him improve upon, pass protection as well. But at the same time, and this is not to excuse it, but I do think when you're dealing with a shin injury the way that he is, and you're not able to generate power the way that he is or as consistently, that makes, and he would never say this because he would never take the easy out, but to me, I start to wonder if you're not generating, that power after that first hit because of, maybe the way your shin is that leading you to maybe compensate or worry or think about something other than I got to hang on to this ball? So I think it is a problem, especially when you look at the situation he's been fumbling in, right? Like in Green Bay, he fumbles on that first possession of the second half at the 28-yard line, and Green Bay scores. If AG holds onto the ball or if they punt it away or whatever, you're down 17-10, and maybe Aaron Rodgers makes some plays late because that's what that dude does. But giving them a possession at the 20 at your own 28. First possession of the second half after you just gave up a touchdown, I mean, that's a problem. Yeah. So yes, his fumbling is a problem. I think you saw them, with the uptick in usage for J.D. McKissic, with kind of seeing Jarrett Patterson on the field for extended run for that first time in against Denver in the game before the bye. I think they're acknowledging that those question marks are, that problem is a concern, but at the same time, I'm very hesitant to lay it all on AG and say, hey man, look, like you're bad at this and you got to fix it, because I do want to acknowledge that he's dealing with some other stuff.
Fair.
Yeah, totally agree. And hopefully this bye week kind of get a little bit more healthy, and hopefully the second half of the season will start to get an uptick a little bit. Well, he probably won't get more healthy because it's the second half of the season, but hopefully he'll start to get some more usage, more yardage uptick. But with all that being said, tough game against Tampa Bay this upcoming Sunday. Obviously, there's a lot of injuries on the offensive side, at least. A lot of weapons are down. Outside of Terry McLaurin, who do you expect to kind of hopefully step up in Sunday and maybe push this offense to get a decent day on offense, I guess?
Man, that I think is the number one question, because this offense going into the season, right? Like, you thought this defense was going to be elite. You thought the offense had to be mediocre, and that could have been, kind of the inverse of Dallas. That was going to be the way to the division title. Obviously, now a lot has changed since that statement was I think, top of mind. But this offense, I think it starts with Taylor Heineke. I mean, I know that's an easy one. But in terms of role players around Terry McLaurin, there's not a number 2 receiving option I think the defenses have to respect right now, in the same way that there would be if Dyami had shown that he could shoot out of a cannon his rookie year, if Logan Thomas had stayed healthy. I think one of those guys, I mean, I think you're looking at some combination of it. Okay, if Dyami Brown's healthy, he's one. Ricky Seals-Jones, I think you've seen a little bit of progression from him. You saw that obviously big splash catch against the Giants, but you haven't seen it consistently. Nope. Adam Humphries, DeAndre Carter, I think some of those, you might see more of Dax Milne. We saw a little bit more of him as well, but Cam Sims, if he's healthy. I mean, those are just guys that – Cam Sims, here's the thing. Last year, down the stretch, Cam Sims became like a legitimate number 2 threat. I mean, You guys remember that game in Pittsburgh?
Yep.
He had a huge third down catch to convert and kind of drive and keep that, kind of close that game out. Exactly. So, I mean, they need somebody, whether it be Cam or someone else, to step up and be that number 2 receiver, to not only take heat off Terry, but to give Taylor somebody that he can go to. And while I know that, easier said than done, and Taylor's got to hit those guys because his throws downfield have been off target often. I mean, part of it's on him. But those are the kind of guys I would imagine, because what you're getting out of J.D. McKissic. And I think he's been one of the most reliable, steady dudes on this team so far. But number 2 receiving option, who's it going to be? There are candidates out there. There have been flashes. Who can sustain it? That's my question.
And that is a great question. And now to wrap this up, Sam, I have a couple questions for you. So we're not over yet, but I got a couple for you. I asked this question on Friday, and I absolutely love it because it's probably one of the toughest ones that I've thought of. Montez Sweat and Chase Roulier are both out. Chase Roulier probably out for the rest of the season. Montez Sweat out a month. Who is the biggest detriment to the team overall with success? Is it losing Chase Roulier or is it Montez Sweat?
To me, it's Chase Roulier, no question.
Okay.
And I say that with full respect to Montez Sweat and what he does. But when you hear Scott Turner and Ken Zampese and those sort of guys talk about how integral Chase Roulier is to this offense, you start to get an appreciation for maybe what that dude has done, because we talk about quarterback turnover a lot, right? I mean, this franchise has had a ton of it. And Scott Turner made the point that Chase Roulier, and this is not because I wrote about Chase Roulier 2 weeks ago, although this did give me a better insight into his process. Like, Scott Turner, when you ask, he's like, no, listen, you got to understand. We can take things off Taylor's plate. We can say, don't worry about, X or Y part of the defensive front, IDing it, getting all the offensive linemen on it, setting the protection. Chase Roulier does that. And the ability that the offense has had, while it's not been a great offense, obviously, the continuity that they have had, some of the struggles they might have had before, they have been able to lessen because Chase Roulier is such a smart, cerebral player. And, just the way that guy, you talk to any of the offensive linemen as well, Charles Leno, the left tackle, he'll say, yeah, I mean, it's a game of telephone down the line because he's going to talk to Eric Flowers, who's going to talk to Leno. But what Roulier does, I think, is very underappreciated in terms of his ability to set the protections and get everybody on the right page, identifying the mic, and so on and so forth. So, to me, it's Chase Roulier. And who replaces him? Because we thought that Tyler Larson was going to be the backup center, right? The guy that Ron brought over from Carolina. That seemed to be the guy. But with Brandon Sheriff back in practice today, you see, Wes Schweitzer taking some snaps at center.
Yes, so, that makes me so happy. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. Sorry, Sam.
No, you're good. So to me, I don't think that anybody on the offensive line, not to their own fault, is going to be able to do what Chase Roulier did stepping in. So to me, does that put more on Taylor's plate? Does that ask more of Wes Schweitzer? What happens now in terms of how they set that protection? Because the offensive line, until Denver, had been playing pretty well, and they got to sustain that.
Yeah, absolutely they do. You're 100% right about that. Now, my next question is, Jarrett Patterson was able to pick up a couple great plays over the weekend against Denver last week. In that touchdown pass to DeAndre Carter, the 2 plays before that, the first run was by AGs for 5 yards. The next play is a Jarrett Patterson run for 13 yards for a first down that sets up the play-action ball to DeAndre Carter that brought the linebackers in, that got the touchdown pass. It was working. That running back, that by committee that they had, was working against Denver with AG, with J.D. McKissick, and Jarrett Patterson. Do you expect Jarrett Patterson to continue getting consistent carries?
I would say it probably depends on the health of Antonio Gibson's shin, because if he's not healthy, then you can't have that dude out there, not only for his health, but I think for the team's production. I think that is, that's how you got to manage it in the NFL. But if he's healthy, I mean, I go back to that screen pass in Buffalo that AG took 70-something yards for the score, because that dude is just too explosive to leave on the sideline if he's 100%. So I would say that while I think the running game was effective in Denver, I think you only go there. You only take snaps away from AG if he needs it.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. And my last one, I promise, I swear to God, it's my last one. Where is it? Oh, my goodness. Oh, there it is. The red zone, obviously we talked about them being last in the league right now, red zone conversion rate. Do you think that is at fault to the lack of talent at wide receiver? Washington's top 5 wide receivers in receptions right now, only 2 of them wide receivers. The other 3 are running backs and tight end. Do you think that inability to execute in the red zone, it has to do with the lack of talent at wide receiver, or do you think it has to do with quarterback play / game planning?
I just want to take a step back and say, imagine us having a conversation about Washington lacking talent at wide receiver in camp when they had 7 dudes who we thought could make this roster. Yeah. Well, we thought this was like one of the strongest parts of their team. It's nuts.
You're right.
It's just amazing.
You're right.
It's amazing how much can change in 8 NFL games, though. But to answer your question, I think it's as I've been saying, a combination of things, and I think that lack of talent at wide receiver is certainly one of them. Because and I would argue maybe tight end is even more important, because Logan Thomas, just what he can do in the red zone, his usage rates, they look to him and he converts on such a high percentage. And I go back to that, top shelf touchdown that he caught early in the year, running that crosser. Anyway, lack of talent, I would say yes, is still a problem, because even when you had beginning of the season, before you had all these injuries, you still were without Curtis Samuel, your number 2 guy. Adam Humphries has not been utilized to his capability because, one of the reasons that made him so strong was that rapport with Ryan Fitzpatrick. So you haven't seen him, at his best. I think Cam Sims, always was the guy that maybe you thought his ceiling was a wide receiver too, and he's been hurt, so that's been a problem. So a comedy of errors. I hate the term perfect storm, but a comedy of just a combination of things has prevented them from getting all that talent they had in the offseason on the field at the same time. There's a reason why, Antonio Gandy-Golden, all respect to him, but when he's, getting snaps or getting, significant snaps in the red zone because he's your big body target, you said coming out of camp he was not the dude by cutting him and keeping Cam Sims. So that's sort of a tacit acknowledgement that maybe your talent level is not there. At the same time, I think that we've seen some weird plays, especially in Denver in the first half. You get second and short at the 30-ish yard line, then you call a screen that loses 4 yards. To me, and maybe that's in service of getting Terry McLaurin involved. Maybe you saw a look, but to me, the play calling hasn't been 100% consistent. I don't think we've seen Scott Turner's best, and that's acknowledging that the quarterback play has not been great. He might have had some of the worst quarterback play in the last 2 years to work with there. So I think it's a combination of things. And then offensive execution, just the one that jumps out, like offensive line at Denver. I mean, they were terrible. Not terrible, but they were not good. So I think to me, it's just a combination of all those things.
Yeah, and Taylor, I think some of those interceptions in the red zone have been absolutely putrid that they could not have given up. I mean, throwing it short and throwing it right to the guy is absolutely ridiculous.
The one to the Saints where he can't, you got to throw that ball out of the back of the end zone. And yes, I mean, right. I mean, probably mostly I think it's Taylor's decision-making and lack of talent at receiver, but all those other factors are ancillary as well.
It's in the hardest part, Sam, I think is pinpointing the issue, because it just seems like whack-a-mole at this point. If it's not one thing, it's another, right? Well, Sam, I can't thank you for coming on again, brother. Always love listening to your questions, asking Ron Rivera in his presser. No, I told you, I think you're one of the best question askers out there. I can't thank you enough, sir. And just in case there's anybody watching and doesn't follow you yet on Twitter that would like to, if you want to plug where you're at.
I'm at Sam, the number 4TR, SAM, the number 4TR. I got to get out of here before I start blushing too much. Y'all are too kind.
Of course, Sam. You have a great night, sir. Thank you so much as always. Good luck, and hopefully we can pull out a W against the Super Bowl champions.
Absolutely. Thanks, y'all.
Have a good night, Sam. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Sam Fortier. I love talking to Sam.
Great dude. Love having him on.
So the reason why I got so excited about the Wes Schweitzer input there, I have to explain, because like when you look at it from this team aspect, you know that they have like capable guards, right? With Brandon Sheriff coming back, Wes Schweitzer has done really well in the time being. And then Sadiq Charles, I know me and Logan Paulson we talked about it last time, where Sadiq Charles is more of a guard, in my personal opinion. When I watched a film on him in college, I said he's not a tackle, he's a guard. And so knowing that, with Sheriff coming back, you say, well, they lost their center. I would hope that they would plug one of those guys in at center now that Roulier is gone, because you don't have as much trust and confidence in Tyler Larson, given the fact that we don't see him as much as we have with Schweitzer and these other guys. So hearing that Schweitzer's there, I love it, because that means that they're putting their best players on the football field. They're going to make it work, and I absolutely love that. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, no, I was kind of surprised to see Schweitzer getting snaps at center, just because, like we were just talking about how Chase Roulier calls out all the protections, points out some of the defensive fronts, takes a lot of stuff off Taylor Heineke's plate. And I know Ron always preaches a position flex, so it's really interesting. It's actually pretty good that Wes Schweitzer at least knows somewhat of like how to like call out protections and stuff like that. So hopefully it's not going to be seamless, but hopefully it'll be close to seamless on Sunday.
Well, not only that, Hall, is the fact that going up against Ndamukong Suh, who Logan Paulson called the best nose tackle in football, coming to FedEx Field this Sunday, going against Tyler Larson, doesn't really instill confidence. But having Wes Schweitzer there, I think that gives me a little bit more confidence. I feel a lot better about that matchup heading into this game. Now, we are joined by All-Star on YouTube, on Twitter. It doesn't matter if it's NFL, college, NBA, our guy, Emannuel Chokuba, the Back Row Redskins podcast and show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Manny. How are you doing, sir? Oh, your mic's not on.
Guys hear me okay?
Yep, got you now.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. It's good to be here, man. Appreciate the invite. A little noisy where I'm at, but we're going to make it happen, man. Let's get it.
Hey, yes, sir, absolutely. And before, we are going to be joined by a fourth guest, and he's going to be joining us here soon. I'm telling you guys, I got an all-star lineup here for the back end. So let's start with our fan questions. I'm going to start this one with our guy, Ash Burning, and I'm going to start this with you, okay, Manny? He wants to know, Scott Turner, hold him, fold him, or run him?
Hit that one more time. Sorry.
Scott Turner, like Texas Hold'em, like if you're playing poker, do you hold him, fold him, or run it?
Hold him.
Why?
Look, I am not excited with his play calling. I understand that we don't have the personnel that he probably likes. But when you look at Scott Turner, man, run the ball. There's certain things that you can do better. There's always room for improvement. I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed. The offense is boring. It's basic. It's very predictable.
And look, I'll give defense to Taylor in this aspect that I know Logan Paulson talked about how there's one avenue that like fans don't really talk about as much, and it's like in the meetings with OCs and the quarterback. The OC will say, hey, I want to run this. The quarterback will say, well, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not going to give you the best thing. So maybe Scott is being brought down a little bit, bogged down by that with Taylor. But I will say, I need to see more creativity in the red zone, Manny. I think to your point there, things have been a lot really vanilla. Whenever we're running the football, it's either you're running into the back of a lineman or we're just not doing anything at all, or it's blown back a couple yards, or we're throwing a screen. I need to see some more creativity. So for me, Ashburning, I'm holding them. I'm holding on. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm close. I'm real close to folding. I got that jack high, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna hold it right now. Because, like you were just saying, I feel like, which is kind of weird because Taylor Heineke is he's been in this offense since his Minnesota days with Scott Turner. So you would think that he obviously knows his playbook like the back of his hand, or at least close enough to that. So you would think that maybe Scott Turner would open it up a little bit more and maybe get a little creative and do some more things, red zone and in between the 20s. But I'll chalk it up to the injuries and the personnel. Because you did see, even though it was against inferior teams, like defenses-wise, the Giants and the Falcons, you did see that once they had an almost full set of the arsenal of weapons outside of Curtis Samuel, then you saw them moving the ball. You saw them put up 30 points against the Giants. You saw them put up 30-plus points against the Falcons. So I do think that we're gonna see going down the stretch, these last couple games, 8, 9 games that we have left in the season, we're gonna see is, are we going to fold Scott Turner or are we going to hold him? Because people start to get healthier. You get more weapons back. Now we're going to see more creative stuff. Are we going to see more points on the board? Are we going to get better red zone efficiency? If not, then I got to put that on Scott Turner.
Yeah, and it seemed like our next guest, we are joined all-star panel right now. Our guy, Todd Pascal of the Tay and Todd's podcast. Everyone knows it from their YouTube, either from Twitter, coming out with all the facts, analytics, and stats that everyone Washington NFL fan would need. Todd, thank you so much for joining us. I just asked the guys. We had a question brought to us by Ashburning, and it was pertaining to Scott Turner in regarding to poker. Would you hold him, fold him, or run him?
That's a good question. I think I'll hold on to him, right? And now I'm not the most expert poker player, so I definitely have to make sure that I'm choosing the right term. I think I'm using it right there, but I'd hold him. The thing is, I just look back. Scott Turner's been the OC here. Include the playoff game last year, 17 plus 8, so 25 games. And in those 25 games, Taylor Heineke, Alex Smith, Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and none of those names are any quarterbacks who will make you look good. You have to make them look good. So I'm holding on to him because while I see some things I don't like, I think I see more that I do like. And I think if he really gets a chance to get a quarterback, whether it's a rookie who is good or a veteran who is good, I think he will make Scott Turner look good. So I'm not done with Scott Turner yet.
I think I understand what you're saying there, because a lot of the times, let's say, I know it's not the same at all, but with Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson does stuff with the play and makes something happen, right? Where Scott Turner doesn't really have that avenue, he has to make that play happen, I think is what you're basically saying. Now, I'm going to keep this with you. Let's go with you, Manny. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. This is from Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi! He wants to know, aside from quarterback, which must be sorted in the offseason? What other areas of the playing squad gives you greatest concern besides quarterback?
We have a lot, but to keep it simple, I'm going to go linebacker. Don't know what's going on. Team likes to run multiple DBs, but it's not an excuse. We can't use that as an excuse. We've said the depth in that linebacking group is very, very poor, right? Somebody goes down, then what, right?
Yep.
Then whether somebody goes down or not, the level of play just has not been there. So it's either we bring in the right personnel or we make some changes. Like something has to happen. Like we definitely need a linebacker. I understand that Jamin Davis is not getting on the snaps. He's still learning. He's still coming along. That's fine. Why didn't we attack that position by getting some kind of veteran that knows what they're doing that's above average or at least average? So linebacker for sure.
I would agree with you, and I do think that if Jamin actually was playing a little bit better, I think we probably wouldn't be saying that right now, and I do think a lot of it has to do with Jamin Davis. I've never seen a rookie come in the league and get pushed on the ground onto his back as much as he does. I don't think that's saying that's who he is as a player, but it's just like, get that confidence level up to being able to be on the football field. What about you, Todd? Do you agree with Manny that besides quarterback, linebacker is the position that gives you the most concern heading into the offseason?
Yeah, I think it does. It's tough to say because there's a lot of contenders, but I'll go with I do agree with Manny that linebacker is a big one because I going into the season with Bostic, Holcomb, and then a rookie, that was a questionable decision to me. I think you roll with Jamin Davis year 2. He's young. I like Holcomb as a piece, but I think you need a veteran who is a better version of John Bostic. He is that veteran, but he's actually a good player. So yeah, I agree with linebacker.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. But I will say I think it's DB because going into the season, William Jackson III was kind of our guy. We thought that was a lockdown guy you could slid right in there. But at the moment, Benjamin St. Juste seems like the best corner that we have at the moment. Yeah. And Kendall Fuller, I love him. He's an opportunistic corner. He makes plays, but he's not the same as he used to be. And so corner is really starting to mess with me right now because – you could talk about Denver and Washington being very comparable, but the one thing is their secondary is stout, and they really stifled the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. They're going to show. Yeah. What about you, Hall? Do you think it's DB or linebacker that gives you the most concern?
Yeah, I was going to say DB. My second one is actually going to be linebacker. But I will go – and you would have – we just talked about this with Sam Fortier. You would have thought that, this would have been the strength of the team. And I know there's injuries that go into it, but I'm going to go with receiver. And obviously you got Terry McLaurin. He's your number 1. Hopefully if Curtis Samuel ever gets healthy and going into the next year gets healthy, he's your number 2. But again, when cut day came, you were like, oh, this is a pretty stout wide receiver room.
Yep.
But if you really actually look at the depth that they got at receiver, outside of Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, who's that true number 3, number 4 guy? I know Cam Sims is there, but for some reason, I know he's been injured, but even when he was healthy, he wasn't really getting a lot of reps, a lot of plays on the field, not a lot of targets. So I definitely think that they need to go back into the well and address that dominant and kind of outside number 2 guy to complement Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, a.k.a. Michael Gallup. He's going to be free agent next year.
Oh, Michael Gallup. I'm sure you love Michael Gallup. Now our next question is from a co-host of the DC Tweet Team podcast, herself, Mrs. Shelly Jordan. Thank you so much, Shelly. And Todd, I'll go with you first here. She wants to know, what adjustments do you think Coach Ron and company will make coming out of the bye week that will directly affect the team moving forward?
That's a good one. So I think offensively, I think you're going to see more Jarrett Patterson. One, because Antonio Gibson is clearly not 100%, and I don't think he will be this season. We saw that in the Broncos game, right? That we saw Patterson starting to get a bit of a split in carries. So I think we'll just see him more in the second half. 1, to see what he has. 2, because the offensive, while Gibson is averaging a good number in terms of yards per carry, there's no explosive runs, right? Washington hasn't had a 30, 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown run because he's not breaking those. When he gets in the open field, his legs kind of fall under. So I think we'll see more Jarrett Patterson. Schematically, I don't think we'll see a whole lot different from Scott Turner offense. Maybe more Cam Sims, But in terms of schematics, I think it'll be the same. Defensively, I think that maybe you'll see less cover 4, less defend deep, and maybe more just cover in the box. Have a single high safety, Cam Curl or Bobby McCain, which they kind of have also done. So I think the changes they've made these last week or 2 is what we'll see more in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What about you, Hall? What is one adjustment you think that Ron and company will make?
Well, hopefully, if you're getting these couple of these pieces back, like Logan Thomas. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more creativity, a little bit more running, a little bit more play action in the red zone. because obviously we're last in the NFL in red
Dude,
zone.
one time on Twitter, I got in an argument with this guy one time. He told me that nobody runs play action in the red zone. I had to stop responding to the guy. I was like, okay.
I was gonna say, does he watch
You
football?
got to stop responding.
Yeah, I definitely think that hopefully that getting Logan Thomas back and a couple more of these healthy pieces on the offensive line will lead to more creativeness and more running plays and more play action in the red zone, which will put more points on the board, which will hopefully lead to, dare I say, more wins.
Dare you say. One thing I will say, I'm not going to say I think that they'll make this adjustment. I hope that they make the adjustment. And I said this on Friday, and I hope that they bring Tim Settle in on offense for short yardage situations. We have a plethora of defensive tackles. Tim Settle is not getting that much playing time at the moment, and he's very athletic. He's light on his feet. He's somebody that packs a punch, and in the short yardage situations, we have not been able to convert. So on goal line and picking up first downs, I would love for Tim Settle to be used as a fullback. Absolutely. What do you think, Manny?
Hey, I like that idea. For me, I'm not as analytical as you guys. I'm not going to give you some plays or this or that. Look, I'm going to keep it real. Here's what we got to do. It's got to be some personnel changes. You got to bench some guys. You got to play some guys.
Anybody in mind, do you think?
Somebody mentioned Cam Sims. I agree. He was decent last year. This year, he's not getting the snaps or the targets, right? You need Fitzpatrick back. We've seen what Taylor Heineke can do. Taylor Heineke is what you'll call a pretty good backup. He's a backup. I like him as a guy who can come in and play a game or two if your starter's out. Not this many games.
Jeff Garcia, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you can do some personnel changes. And then on defense, you got to tweak that secondary. Some guys got to be benched. Some guys got to be moved around. Maybe you move a Fuller to safety, to a free safety. Maybe. Let's see if it works. You know, you got to do something different. Bobby McCain, got to go sit down. Got to bring up Everett. Some of these other guys.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Different, because whatever that we're doing is not working. The personnel that we already have is not working. The coaching isn't working. So you got to just try different people at different positions. I love that Tim Settle idea. At this point, you just got to try stuff and just see what happens.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. Now, our next question is from a big fan of ours, is Paul Murphy. And, Manny, I'm going to go back to you with the first one here, and it's kind of lengthy, so just give me a moment. If you need me to recite it, I will. But he said, if you had a blank canvas and could start to build again from the start, which current NFL head coach other than Ron would you choose for Washington? And then, which other team's organization and culture impresses you most and could perhaps act as a model for us to adopt?
Oh, man, look, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. You just take everything the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing and just bring it over here. Mike Tomlin, okay, you bring him in. He is a hard-nosed guy. He's a guy that preaches defense, and he practices what he preaches. Like, he'll talk about it, and he just does it. Like, it's just a good organization from top to bottom. We know that Haskins went over there. He hasn't done anything yet, but that's a good place for him to develop. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be anything or become whatever, but when you look at how that organization is structured, strong defense, strong linebackers, and they're being coached. They're being coached and they're being put in positions to win. So when you talk about organization, coaching, the whole nine, Pittsburgh. Just copy everything that they're doing except of letting Ben Roethlisberger play forever. Other than that, Pittsburgh is the great model to build.
Hey, is that being said, does that mean you would pick Tomlin as the head coach you would have besides
Absolutely.
Ron? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. What do you think, Todd?
I think I'm going to stay in the division, and I think I'm going to go with the Ravens because, with Ozzie Newsome, right? I mean, they were just so consistent in their drafts, just adding players at every position. They would find players that, they wouldn't find great players at wide receiver, but they'd find guys who would get it done, And then even at quarterback, Joe Flacco was never great, but he was great enough for them to win a Super Bowl. I think they'll win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson, and the way that they drafted him, they knew that they wanted him, and then they didn't draft him. And, so many teams draft players, and they just use them however. But they took Lamar, and they put him in the best possible situation and the best possible scheme he could be, and he's thriving. So I think I'd go with the Ravens. You never hear, anything bad coming out of that organization. So I'm going to stay in the AFC North with you, Manny.
And one thing I will say about Lamar, I know I'm going to get off track, but I will say the one thing that has always impressed me that made him better than RG3, Michael Vick, any of these other guys, was his poise when running the football. He wasn't freaking out, is not chaotic. He always has his mind at his feet, and he knows when to slide, get out of bounds. He always keeps himself healthy. I don't think Lamar gets enough credit for that. He's very, very smart in that aspect. The head coach, I agree with Manny, is Mike Tomlin. I absolutely love Mike Tomlin. The gif of "we do not care" is exactly the kind of head coach and mindset that I want as a leader of men, and that's who I'd want in the building. I've said this many, many times before. Now, the organization I want us to model after is the Green Bay Packers. I love the way that they go about doing business. I love the fact that fans are shareholders and have a voice into what's happening. I would love to have that here after so many years of Snyder crapping on us. I would love to be able to model our franchise after the Green Bay Packers. I mean, what, 2 franchise quarterbacks since, 96? I mean, come on now. That's what I want. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, organization-wise, I was going to go Pittsburgh, but you already picked those. I'll go LA Rams.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, that's true. I'll go LA Rams just because I like the mentality of they see a player they want, they just go all in for him. They push all their chips in. They're on a win-now mode. It's not like, let's take the time and let's trust the process like the 76ers. No, they say we got the players, we got the people. Push all the chips in. Let's get that extra piece, get us over the top. It got him to Super Bowl once, so see if we can get him again this year. But coach-wise, people are going to be like, what? But I'll go Cliff Kingsbury just because I think that he's a great offensive mind. You see what he's doing with Kyler Murray down over in Arizona, but they spread the ball around. They push the ball down the field. They spread you out on offense. It's all about speed. And I just think that he got a lot of flack because he came in from college and had a losing record in college. Then he had a losing record his first couple of years. But you see once he gets his guy to quarterback, you get the pieces around him, and you put him in a position to coach him up, coach the offense well, put him in a position to win. And look at them, number 1 team in the NFL right now, one of the top offenses in the league. And I just think that he doesn't get enough credit for the offense that he's putting on the field every week in and week out.
You look, I know among adults, when you talk about the time that Tomlin almost tripped Jacoby Jones, I know they'll talk about that as probably a bad look for somebody. But for just on a human level, if I were to ever talk to Mike Tomlin and say, dude, you're the man. That's like that dude wants to win so bad he would do something like that. But I know he hasn't done it. But that's why I love Tomlin. But our next question, I'll go to you, Manny, first. And this is from our guy, Wizkins. I know he's a huge fan of you as well, Emannuel Chokuba. He has great questions for us. He's a guest of ours. Has been on here before. He wants to know, what does a successful offseason look like for Washington? You're on mute. You're good.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, this one is easy, man. Get the right players, man. Like, every year we get excited. Like, we signed some guys. Like, William Jackson III, I was excited. It hasn't worked because he's not being used to his strengths, right? Like, we bring all these guys, and you don't use them to their strengths. Like, you just bring guys because they're good, and you just try to force them into your own system. It's not working, all right? So my whole thing is get the right personnel for the coaching staff that we have. Just get the right guys, because at the end of the day, they love this coaching staff. They want to keep these guys. I want to get rid of some of these guys. But if that's the case, if these are the guys that we're going to roll with for the next couple of years, 3, 4, 5 years, however many years, get the right players that fit the system. It's just that easy. Yeah. Whether you're drafting these guys, whether you're signing these guys, just get the right guys. That's the easiest way to answer this question.
I love it. Todd, I'm going to keep you for the end, okay? Save the best for last for this because I know where you're going to go. Hall, what do you think?
Successful offseason would be for them to target the quarterback that's going to be the quarterback here for the next, let's call it 5 to 8 years, 5 to 10 years plus. And whether it's a veteran, whether it's a rookie, whatever they decide, whoever's out there, whoever they make a move for, I'm all for it because, again, you saw what Ron Rivera did in Carolina. Once he got Cam, he built the offense around Cam, put the pieces around Cam, and eventually they made it to a Super Bowl. So I just want Ron, Scott Zampese, Scott Turner, all these offensive guys, the 2 Martys, to come together and focus on a quarterback and just literally point us in the direction of a quarterback and let the quarterback loose, let him be free.
All right.
That's a successful offseason for me.
So, Wizzy, this is 2 things. This is all I need for them to have a successful offseason. Number 1, sign Terry McLaurin to an extension. I don't care how long it is. I don't care how much it is. Get that dude signed and in the building for as long as he possibly can. I've been clamoring for it. That is my dude. He deserves the money. He has everything that this team needs. He's the offensive version of Darryl Green, reincarnated. Bring him back. Secondly, get the quarterback. And I don't care how it is, but just make sure you get a quarterback in here that can work under our fruition and what we've got. Obviously, that is why Martin Mayhew and Marty Herney are here, because they're the quarterback lookers, right? They're generally tasked with looking to find quarterbacks. And so let's get that quarterback. What about you, Todd?
You said you knew where I was going to go, right?
Yep.
So, number one, you got to get the kicker, man. You got to get that kicker. You got to get that. No, I mean, it feels redundant. And when me and Tay record, I feel like we're saying the same thing every week. But, like, you have to get a quarterback this offseason because, like we talked about with Ron Rivera, we talk about with every head coach who if you have a franchise quarterback and you have success, you lose that franchise quarterback, you stop having that same level of success. He hasn't had him here, so he's not had that level of success. So I don't care if it's through the draft. There's multiple guys I like. I don't care if it's trading for a veteran or whatever picks you have to give up. I mean, obviously you want it to make sense, obviously, but you just have to go into next season with a quarterback on this roster who is your future. And if you draft someone and he fails, like, I can excuse that because it's like first round is at best a 50-50 proposition. So if you draft the wrong guy and it just doesn't work out, okay, all right. But if you just don't get him, or if you do another, if you go Mitchell Trubisky and that's it, something like that, then I mean, I'm just absolutely done. Because the league is it's run by quarterbacks. And I mean, like, we don't talk about it enough. Obviously, the defense has been bad this year, and it's not that I think it would make a huge difference, but having a quarterback who can run an offense that can operate efficiently will, to some level, help the defense. So
to your point there, look at the Dallas Cowboys. To be perfectly honest,
exactly,
their defense would not be as highly regarded if they did not have to keep offenses down below 30 points a game. Like the offense putting up.
Exactly. Like, I mean, Trayvon Diggs, and like he's having a really good year with all the picks, but he is also giving up a lot of yards. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. No one's talking about that. So they just have to get a quarterback, and I mean that's the main thing. They have other things they need to do. So if you only get the quarterback, that doesn't mean that it's a successful offseason. But if you do everything else and you don't get the quarterback, then to me the offseason was a failure.
Yeah,
that's where I stand.
Totally agree with you. Now, one of our last questions is from Andy Burrows in the UK. Oi! And this one is more about the team name and organization aspect. So, Hall, I'll go to you with this one first. He wants to know, would you be surprised if the team got moved if a suitable site for a new stadium could not be found within the next 2 years? Your mic's off. Your mic's not on right now. What about you, Todd?
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, I'd be extremely surprised. I mean, I guess I'm not sure. First of all, Dan Snyder is hated by everybody, not just fans. Like, you don't have to be a fan of Washington to not like Dan Snyder. So if you moved Washington somewhere else, it wouldn't be this gracious landing, I don't think, because people would be like, no, we don't want Dan Snyder around here. But two, Dan Snyder, for all of his flaws, is a fan of this team, is from this area, and does want the team here. So yeah, and then it's a huge market. It's not a small market. It's not St. Louis. It's not, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, I would be surprised too, but I guess that timing would make sense given the fact that they've said by 2028 they want the new stadium, and that would put us at 2023, 5 years away, which would give them enough time for construction and all the contracts and everything going through. I would be surprised, to be perfectly honest, because this area is a moneymaker. This is a sleeping giant. Here. A lot of fans are here. They're just very quiet because they're waiting to see a consistent winner. They know they've seen this song and dance before. We get hopeful, and then it gets ripped out right from under us as soon as we get excited, and people are trepidatious about it. They're kind of worried about that aspect. Right. So I would be very surprised if they move because this is a huge moneymaker in this area, especially with the game of football. What do you think, Manny?
I mean, I agree. But I will also say this. The product on the field is so bad right now.
Yeah.
It's somebody like me who's I'm not in the DMV area. I'm in Nashville. I'm not taking no trips out there. I'm not.
No, I understand what you're saying. It's not good enough to make a trip from Tennessee to Maryland. I completely understand what you say.
Yeah. It's just not. If I'm coming out to the DMV area, I'm coming out to see family.
Yep.
Coming out to see family. I might come to the tailgate because you guys are awesome. Meet some guys. Have fun. I'll have more fun at a sports bar than I would at FedEx. right now.
Right.
I came out there like 3 years ago when Alex Smith was out there, and we were playing the ATL Falcons, and it was check down city, waste of money. I had dream seats. I mean, we were losing so bad that you just know what comes with that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it is a moneymaker. Hopefully, the product gets better, so that way, you know what I'm saying, the stadium is packed with our fans and not other teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw the video from the Dallas stadium yesterday with the Broncos that were chanting there, and John Comm, I think, made a tweet about it. He said it happens all over the league, and it does. But I think obviously the media here, there's kind of already a growing organism with it, so it just kind of takes its own path. You know what I mean? Hall, do you have any additional things with that? Do you think that you'd be surprised?
Yeah, I would definitely be surprised. I think 2 years, 3 years, they're gonna work something out somewhere eventually. To Todd's point, nobody likes Dan Snyder, which is why there hasn't been a stadium deal yet.
Somebody also needs to get reelected, so that might be a cause for it.
There's an election coming up, so whoever these new crop of officials is coming in, maybe Jason Wright can work his magic, but I fully expect for them to be a stadium somewhere in the DMV area. Don't know where exactly, but I expect it to be somewhere in DMV. I don't expect them to get moved out of here. Like you guys mentioned, this is one of those huge, like, big markets. It's a huge media market. So this is one of those franchises that was like once a glorious top franchise in the league. So I just think it all comes down to winning on the field. If you look back to even when we had RG3, there was so much hope, so much excitement. The city was buzzing. So I just think if you get a legit quarterback in here, you start putting a good product on the field, consistent product on the field, everything else will work itself out.
Yeah, and my stepfather-in-law, he is a teacher for the county. He actually taught Snyder in high school, and he said that Snyder actually made fun of him for driving his Ford Pinto. God, dude,
wow,
yeah, it's Snyder, man.
The stories never end.
No, they don't. But he doesn't like have an ill will towards Snyder. He actually liked the kid. He just thought he was funny. But our last question is from my guy, the Colonel, father-in-law. He has a great question for us. I know that it's not. Right now, it's more of like a past kind of thing, recollecting, going back into the past. But I want to go with you, Manny, on this one first. Had Washington been interested in a quarterback instead of Chase Young, next up on the board after Joe Burrow was Tua? Speculate whether we would have tried to move up to get Joe Burrow, taken Tua, or what? If it wasn't Chase Young there at 2. You're on mute. It sucks, dude. I know. I couldn't stand doing that.
So if it wasn't Chase Young, right, I'm not going to lie. That year, I thought Tua was amazing in college, but I was always skeptical. I'm like, this guy has some pretty good wide receivers. Is it the wide receivers? Is it the system? Or is it Tua? So that was always in the back of my mind. But at the end of the day, if we didn't get Chase Young, it better have been a quarterback. I would have been fine with Tua. I would have been fine with Herbert. I think those are the only other 2 quarterbacks on the board that would have made any sense. Obviously, Tua was – highly regarded. Everybody was talking to, and nobody was talking to Herbert. So yeah, I would have been fine with Tua, but if it didn't work, guess what? I was gonna be mad. It's just one of those things where you're searching, and if you keep drafting these quarterbacks that are talented, you can develop them, or it doesn't work. Then it's the organization. It's not the players. Like, I mean, have we got Tua and Tua was horrible even now? It's the organization. That means we just cursed. We're not supposed to draft a quarterback. We're just not supposed to draft a quarterback. Maybe you trade 7 first-round picks for a guy like Stafford. Maybe that's what we should have done. Maybe.
That's my whole thing is like, yes, we could go and we could have drafted Justin Herbert instead of Chase Young, but there's no telling that he would have snapped his ACL, snapped his leg in half. Halfway through the season, we would have said, why didn't we draft Chase Young? He's got 10 sacks with this other team right now.
Ash burning, baby.
Yeah, ash burning. Absolutely. You're right. Now, Hall, what about you? What do you think about that?
You can go back and check it. I was never like a huge Tua guy. I always thought that Justin Herbert was the second best quarterback in the draft.
You did.
I didn't think he was like worthy of the number 2 overall pick in the draft. You know what I'm saying? So I was completely fine with taking Chase Young. Like I said, I was never a big Tua guy. I was mostly scared about the injuries because obviously everyone knew about the hip injury. But if you looked at his college career, he had little nicks and bruises, little dings on his broken fingers, ankle injuries, stuff like that. And I just always thought that if he's getting beat up in the SEC as a kind of smaller quarterback, what's going to happen when you get to the big boy league against literally grown ass men? So that was always my thing. But Tua's not a bad quarterback. I just think that he's a product of you got to have weapons around him, kind of like Alabama. So I think that if he would have came here, he would have probably flamed out. The fan base would have been mad as hell, and we would have been sitting here like, well, like you said, why didn't we draft Chase Young? He has double-digit sacks over here, and he's defensive rookie of the year, and all this other stuff. So I'm good with the Chase Young pick. And again, would you like to have a guy like Justin Herbert on your squad? Of course, but like you said, when you got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, a great running back in Austin Eckler on the offensive side of the ball, he would have came here and had Terry McLaurin. So it's like, would he actually be Justin Herbert that he is in LA right now? So Chase Young was always the pick, and hopefully he'll pick it up in the second half of the season like he did last year.
And it looks like we have 2 more guests on the show. Looks like Manny has his 2 sons. What's going on, fellas?
You said all-star panel.
You got Ezekiel and you got Emmanuel Jr.
Oh, Zeke and me-man.
What's up, guys?
What's up, guys? How are you doing? Hey, we're
how it's done.
We're wrapping up here, but the last thing I will say regarding that with what you said, Colonel, with Chase Young, I still think it's Chase Young. I don't even want to speculate on it. I don't think that there is a difference here. I think what Coach did is he went and got his Julius Peppers. And I know everyone keeps looking at this in a bottle as a 2-season thing. This isn't. This is a 10-year thing. And if we get a baller for 5 seasons after 5 maybe mediocre seasons, I'm okay with that, because those 5 seasons of him being a baller, I can guarantee you there's going to be some championships in there, because whenever you have an elite pass rusher, generally that is what follows if you don't blow yourself up like the Chicago Bears have, to be perfectly honest with you. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
All right, and then right before we go, I just want to say thank you so much to you, Mr. Emannuel Chokuba, to your 2 sons, Emmanuel Jr. and Ezekiel. Thank you to you, Todd. And if you guys, real quick, Todd, if you guys want to plug your ats, just in case anybody watching doesn't know where to find you.
Yeah, definitely at Tay, the letter N, Todd Podcast on Twitter, and then Tay and Todd Podcast on YouTube for all the stuff we do on there, and Spotify, all the podcast platforms.
Yeah, Todd does great film breakdowns of the games, his recaps, does the whole thing where he's drawing on the screen and everything for you. Way more sophisticated than anything I put out there. So if you like that kind of stuff, go look out for Todd on YouTube. And then Emmanuel Chokuba. The man is like, what is it called? What is the bad guy called in Spider-Man, the octopus dude with all the different...
Oh, no.
Dr. Octopus?
Yeah, like, is that what his name is? But that's that's what Manny is, with all of these different pods he does, because he covers everything, dude. Fantasy football, NFL, NBA, he does everything. Manny, if you, real quick before you go, if you want to plug your stuff in so people can find you.
Absolutely. Before I plug my stuff, man, I got to go ahead and mock Kyle real quick. I enjoy your podcast. Saying Todd, I enjoy your podcast. But every time I listen to you guys' podcast, the Podfather, he goes, "Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in." I said, if I get back on the pod, I got to do it. Hello, everybody. Yeah, but, check out the Back Row Redskins show. The name will be changing soon. Whenever we change our name, that's on the podcast form. And then on YouTube, Talking Sports with Manny, you can get all the Redskins stuff, Washington football stuff, NBA, fantasy football, you name it. It's like a buffet. Just pick whatever you like.
Absolutely. And this send off is for you, Manny. All right, everybody. And we will see you guys on Friday. All right, tune in. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you then. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!